It's time for another episode of the Joshcast. Someone forgot his microphone, so we're going to have to record the ambient noises in the car. And he will also have to project slightly Joshcast. The only thing I don't like about this is I feel like I can't be, when I don't have the microphone, I feel like I can't be as intimate, that I have to project a little bit, which makes it hard for me to reenact famous romantic scenes. Like I was going to reenact some of the scenes from Twilight, and it's just hard to do that now. It's hard for me to go, I know you're a vampire, and I find you attractive. I find you attractive, but I also want to eat your face. Wow, that's a conflict. Yes, it is. I guess that's really the end of the conversation. Yes, it is. You want to get empanadas? I only eat blood. You want to get blood empanadas? See, it just lacks the chemistry and the romance and the ambiance. I saw a lizard outside my, I don't know if it's an apartment. I wouldn't use that word. I saw a lizard outside my box, and it reminded me that, yes, we do live in a desert. So when we're all complaining, oh God, it's August, it's so hot, or it's July, oh, it's so hot, the lizard is saying, yes, it's how it always has been. Yes, things are fine. It's hard to complain about your life to a lizard, I find. No, I mean, it's really hot out. I just don't handle the heat well. Oh. Well, have you tried being cold-blooded? Emotionally, yes. Yes, I'm work on that every day. But physically, I'm just, unfortunately, not. And then I don't know. I don't have the social media following I need to really be able to, sell tickets to get people to see me perform. No, I don't know. All I need is a rock in the sun, and I'm good. Have you tried lying on your belly on a rock in the sun naked? No, I can't do that. I have there's a history of skin cancer in my family, so I have to be careful. Oh, I have scales. Maybe you should have scale. You know what? We can't have coffee anymore. This just isn't working. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. I don't care. Lizard, don't care. Don't care, lizard. Hard to tell what a lizard is feeling, though we must assume that a lizard does feel. It simply appears different because the lizard does not have the same facial expressions that we have. Here's another discovery I made yesterday. I saw what appeared to be a hummingbird, and I went, oh, a hummingbird, that's neat. And then I realized it was a giant insect, and I went, oh, that's gross. And I thought to myself, why did I make that shift as soon as I realized it wasn't a hummingbird and it was an insect? Why is there a part of me, why does my lizard brain, if my lizard brain had to choose, it would choose bird over insect? And I think it's something to do with we're constantly, some kind of evolutionary thing. We've got a friend or foe. And I don't know, maybe we think the hummingbird it's closer to a mammal than an insect is. Therefore, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I'm not sure. Marcus, why did you trust the hummingbird over the insect? That was just a gut instinct, man. Well, the hummingbird was working for the Russians, damn it. The insect was one of ours. Sergeant Cricket Legs. Is that his actual name? Yes, Cricket Legs. It's a common name in the cricket family. Cricket legs. Yes. Trained in the deadly art of martial arts. Please tell me he was trained by a praying mantis. Yes, he was. That's not the point. And it just happens to be a coincidence that the praying mantis knows martial arts. There are a lot of other insects in our department that know martial arts. There's a fruit fly that's really good at Aikido. All right? Man, where do we go from there? Where do we go from there? Real estate. That's the thing. People have it. People don't have it. I don't own any real estate. And I think based on the numbers of this podcast, it's pretty clear why. That's what Lex Luthor wanted in the first Superman movie. It's all about land. Nuke California so that he can buy land in Nevada, and Nevada becomes beachfront property. That was his big plan. Which I feel like a lot of people, especially in Nevada, dream of. But science tells us that is not exactly how it's going to work. California is not going to fall into the ocean. A part of me has always wanted to live in a beach town. Just I have the image, I see just people on beach towns seem more laid back. Because you have the negative ions of the ocean. The negative ions just washing across you. Yes, I love the idea of living in a small beach town. Very few people, but still Wi-Fi. I wouldn't actually, I wouldn't surf. I would write thoughtful, short prose in the style of Hemingway and Cheever. Prose about a young man and a young woman who are just driving down the road en route to the grocery store, having what appears on the surface to be a simple conversation, but is in point of fact a meditation on the impermanence of life and the futility of finding connections in relationships. And the name of that story would be The Long Ride. And I'd win a Pulitzer for it, and 11th graders would read my story in English class. By the way, that last little description that I used, if you're having trouble sleeping, use that and it'll help you sleep. Should we go into that, what that story is? I think we should. And now, The Long Road by Joshua Jebediah Snyder. The road was long. The car was a Honda. Timothree, whose name was strange because it was Timothree. His mother meant to name him Timothy, but she was highly intoxicated when she filled out the birth certificate, and so his name became Timothree. Timothree stared into the abyss of the horizon. On his left was communal farm property. On his right was a martial arts fitness center. He suspected that Linda was having an affair with the martial artist who ran the fitness center, whose name was Ryu. Timothree debated whether or not to broach the subject. You know, Linda, I was shopping and I ran into Ryu. I think he's your instructor. Yes, he is. And he was telling me a little bit about the course, and I asked him if there's any chance that maybe one day I could learn how to throw a fireball. And he said probably not. Yes, it's a hard thing to learn. Seems like a nice fellow. Yes, he is. And in that silence, both realized that the love between them had died. In that silence, they both realized that the love between them was like the spine of a man that was being ripped out by a Mortal Kombat character. And that everything they were doing was a sham at this point. That all Timothree wanted to do was grab Linda by the shoulders and say, "God damn it! Why won't you love me like you did when we were both undergraduates at the University of Wisconsin, studying microbiology? Do you remember the passion that we felt when we went to go see the movie With Honors, starring Joe Pesci and Brendan Fraser, and we remarked that we thought it was a well-made movie, and we were surprised that it did not achieve any kind of recognition from the Academy Awards? Do you remember that, Linda? How I long for that." But Timothree said nothing. He only kept driving. And suddenly he was forced to stop driving, because in the middle of the street was a soldier with a flat top, blonde, who was firing sonic booms. "Excuse me, sir. Is everything all right?" Timothree said. "Everything is not all right, okay? I'm not... It takes me 2 seconds to be able to fire a sonic boom. That's my problem. There's this guy, Ryu. He can throw a fireball almost instantaneously. Me, it takes 2 seconds to charge up the sonic boom, and it's really throwing me, man. It's really throwing me. I'm not as fast as Ryu. It's pissing me off." And in that moment, Timothree felt a kinship with this man, who was also somehow lesser than Ryu. And though decorum dictated that he should have just kept driving, something in Timothy stopped him. "My name should be Timothy," Timothree said. "But my mother made a mistake. And ever since, I've been known as Timothree. But it should be Timothy." "I feel you, my brother," said the man with the flat top. "My name is Guile. Although my birth name is Bill, but Guile is sort of my fighting name. I go by Guile. But if you call me Bill, I'll respond, but I would rather you call me Guile." "I hear you. But moving forward, I want you to call me Timothy." "I will do that, Timothy. Thank you, Guile." Linda watched with a strange detachment. Two men who she cared nothing about, talking about the man that she loved. Her mind wandering, thinking about the fireballs that he could throw, and how exhilarating it was to not have to wait for 2 seconds to get a fireball. Linda wished she could be with Ryu. She wished that Ryu could sweep her off of his feet. She then realized that didn't make sense, that she messed up the pronouns. But this was 2019. To hell with pronouns. She wished that Ryu could sweep her off of her feet, and they could go travel the world, Ryu fighting, her cheering him at his side, helping to defeat the evil M. Bison. But alas, there were promises to keep. Work to be done. Vows that were made. It could never be broken. Or perhaps that she was too afraid to break. Wow, the two of you are really in a terrible dead-end relationship, aren't you? Yes, Guile, you've seen right through us. But we're locked. Locked in a never-ending cycle of bad decisions and horrible habits. Chained in by our fear. Don't be like us, Guile. Run free. Overcome your 2-second delay. You can do it. And I'll be with you in spirit. And never forget my name, Timothy. And thus did Guile go his way, and thus did Timothy and Linda go their way. Who can say if they became happy? Perhaps happiness is not something that can be found. Perhaps at the end of the day, all that there is a general sense of contentment and peace that can wash over you the way warm milk does as you drink it at night. Unless you have lactose intolerance, in which case, if you drink the warm milk at night, you will suffer for it in the morning, or perhaps even later that night. And Timothy, or Timothree, it didn't really matter. His name would never be remembered. Stared into the horizon, pondering the dusk. Well, that happened. That was a bitch much, wasn't it? That was ridiculous. That was off the chain. Now, class, we've all just finished reading this short story by Joshua Jebediah Snyder. So I'm going to ask you some study questions. What does Timothree represent? Yes, Phil, what do you think it represents? This is the worst thing I've ever read. Okay, Phil, this isn't a commentary. Trying to get you to think critically here. No, why are we studying this? We should be studying Shakespeare. Why? How did this get in? I've never even heard of Joshua Zachary Snyder, or whatever. It's Joshua Jebediah Snyder, okay? Yeah, I've never heard of him. How did this get into the primer? Who is he? Listen, he was a great man. Are you Joshua Jebediah Snyder, and you're just shoving your own short stories into this English class? Please tell me that's not what's happening. Please tell me that is not what is happening. I promise you that is not what is happening. Okay, great. So, can you also explain why our homework is to watch Star Trek First Contact and compare and contrast with Star Trek Insurrection? Can you please explain that? Because I'm getting the feeling this is not a legitimate English class.